The first episode of hopefully many that I'm calling EmptySea on the Metaverse. And I'm your host, EmptySea, which are my initials. So a little play on words there. But there's so much buzz and so much hype and so much craziness and activity going on in the Metaverse that I tell you, it's overwhelming. And what I'd like to do is start talking about some of these subjects. There's been some amazing conversations going on, and I think they could benefit a lot more people. So, what my aim here is to engage the community, talk to leaders, talk about the news, talk about the noise, and the reality of digital reality. So, that's what we really want to do. We want to have a conversation. There's so much to learn here, and there's no experts in this space. We're on the cusp of something new. It's the turning of HTML to e-commerce. It's the going from static to dynamic. The introduction of social, the confusion that's going on with how do we market in these places, and we really are early. It's like you're sitting with Jeff Bezos in his garage in his bookstore idea, and he starts telling you about how he's going to have drones and talking devices that are going to run our houses. Hard to get your head around. Where do you start? Uh, what's the possibility? What's real? What's hype? What's noise? And I think that's some of the things that we need to talk about because I think things are moving fast and not necessarily all things need to be done fast. So, with that, we're gonna we're gonna talk about some subjects here, and it's gonna be from active stuff. I'm gonna bring in some guests, some friends, and really knowledgeable people about some of the work that's going on, and hopefully we'll come into a regular cadence. We can start taking some of your comments, questions, and we can translate those into bigger and better discussions. So, just a few things off the top of my head today. It's a crazy day. It's the 16th of February and a full run of information. We had probably the weirdest thing is JPMorgan was in Decentraland, first major bank in the metaverse. And that seems to defy the odd logic of Web3 decentralization. And to have a JP Morgan come in and jump into Decentraland of all places, and uh, the epitome of a centralized bank coming into Decentraland and promoting itself. It's interesting. I'm really fascinated to see the undercurrent of what's going to go on here because the space is there's obvious zealots in the space, and it's going to be very interesting to see if that what the response is. Are they welcome with open arms? I guess if we're adhering to the Web3 ideal, everyone's all inclusive, but it just seemed like an interesting thing. But they came in, they built a mall, or they built a space in a mall, and yeah, some weird things on the article was tigers and a place to see more stuff about the CEO. But they put their foot down. They planted their foot in the metaverse, which is an interesting. I think that's an interesting indication of where 2022 is going to be headed for sure. So we'll talk about that more later. But another big subject that keeps coming up is it AR first, augmented reality versus virtual reality? What is the metaverse? And I think it's both and none. It's kind of the some would say, and there's been some conversations recently that the ultimate form is augmented reality, is to add value to the world around us, and that VR is kind of the vehicle. And so we create a fake environment, and And then we go to augmented reality. I don't know. I don't know if I subscribe to that. I feel like augmented reality has always been kind of the gateway drug to immersive interfaces. It's less imposing. You don't put on a headset and close yourself off to the people around you. We all have those crazy videos of somebody flailing around. They've got the headset on. They're in an immersive experience, and you're watching them in your living room. And that's a tough sell for a lot of people. So I think the augmented reality is probably going to be enriched in the long run. Definitely think, but I think the metaverse, as I'm seeing it, is a persistent environment. AR is going to probably be the first way, is where especially where business is going. Um, Commercially, I think there's a lot of people are going to be on VR. Meta's pushing really hard to see how many Oculus they can get on headsets, and those numbers are increasing. But we'll see where that goes. I think it's normalizing, but I think more devices today, smartphones and tablets, and there's lots of work on consumer headsets, that are low profile. And you could add value to the world around us. I think AR is going to be an interesting. That's where I would say put your bets for corporate America or corporate anywhere is you're going to want to go and do augmented reality. It opens up a bunch of different discussions. There's creation of 3D objects. All of the products, all of the items are going to need to be digitized at some point, no matter what you use. You're going to use augmented reality, and virtual reality. Um, you're going to want to digitize your products. And I think that coming up with a standard and looking at some of the stuff that you have to do to get that done is going to be some of the first things you're going to want to deploy. You can do that internally. You can look into some standards. GLB, GLTF is coming up as a standard. I think the smart play is to create a 3D catalog so you can be ready, and in the case of where I'm working, it would make sense to have a catalog of 3D objects. You can do so much with them today. Uh, Visualize displays, look at product, make decisions on marketing, get a 3D sense of something, the spatial aspect, how tall is it, instead of trying to just look at the numbers. And then you can be ready when these conversations are happening, and you're going to go augmented reality, spatial anchors, or if you're going to go into uh, you know, into virtual reality. Eventually the stores, the outlets, the places that are going to be selling these virtual products are going to need the 3D models so they can be visualized. Um, and there's a great way to prepare for whatever that's going to be. So I don't think that's wasted effort. That's probably a great place for businesses to really start. But augmented reality for me, that's my bet. That's where I'm putting it down. There's a lot of things you can do in that space, and they're um, quick wins, great standards, great way to normalize with senior leadership and get people to kind of wrap their head around spatial, and uh, and like I said, a bit of a gateway to the VR headsets. Um, that leads me into rethinking retail. This is another subject that keeps coming up, and virtual stores and physicality. If we do virtual reality, physics are out the window. You could do anything. It's a virtual world, so you don't have that movement, you don't have that sense of space. You can change eye lines, things can grow infinitely, move around. And so I think the lesson here is for put everything on the table. Think about what can be done in this space. We don't have to worry about where you walk, going into the retail stores and what's the placement of items. I think it's going to change quite a bit. I think there's going to be some the ones that are going to win are the ones that can think outside the box, that can press themselves and say, if I'm not, just like we look at the physicality of a retail store, um, and human movement through it, what would it look like if you don't have some of those physics rules? What could you do differently? And then the next the next thing that is really interesting to me is, do you need the retail space? I think you do. I think I posed this question on LinkedIn, and it comes up, and it's one thing to say that you're going to take it into the virtual world and you're going to have stores in a traditional sense. I think that's going to be the normal, like, it's enough of a leap for people to go into a virtual world that they'll want to normalize and make sure that everybody feels comfortable in the mechanics. And then once that is set, then it's going to be, now we're going to change the rules, or we're going to, you'll slowly move differently. Things can be in odd places, or you can transport or touch things and get additional information. So I think it's going to change the physicality. One of the things that's really interesting to me, though, is, do you also consider your products and services out in the contextual virtual world? Can they be, you don't have to go to a store to get to your product. Can you sell? Can you make things available? Can you make goods and services available at the places that people are when they're thinking about this stuff? So imagine if you're at the virtual coffee shop, and so there's virtual snacks and gum and food items. And if you go to a dog park, in there, do you see, there's access to information about pet nutrition, pet food? Is there um cleaning services? I mean, if you think about, you wouldn't have these things or access on the street out in the physical world, but in a virtual world, it could be a kiosk somewhere. You could be walking somewhere and see flowers, uh, tap the flowers, and have an experience that says you want these flowers delivered to your home, and thank you, Home Depot, or um, the local greenhouse. So I mean, I think there's so much stuff that you can get that might be contextual, that we're going to have to rethink the nature of goods and services and selling, because it's just not going to be traditional. You're not going to it's not going to be ads and a curated environment like we have now in retail spaces. I think that'll still be there, but I just don't think that that's going to be the only way. And I think that if there's more things that are contextual, then I think that they'll be more honest. I think people will feel less manipulated. You go into a space now, I go to get one thing, I have to go through the entire store to get the gallon of milk I need. And they put that at the back of the store for a reason. They don't put it conveniently up front because they know you're going to run in and run out. They want to put it in the back so that you go get it and then go through the entire store. And I think that's where, you know, certain things are going to be really interesting in that respect, because we can really flip the script. Um, we talk about the retail, and another item came up, and we keep saying that virtual reality is Gen Z, Gen Alpha, um, and early adopters. But we've got a whole generation of aging senior citizens, you know, mm, that are home, that are lonely. How do we combat that loneliness? How do we make them feel empowered? They didn't grow up with mice and keyboards and, talking devices, and those are still alien. Those are still difficult for a good segment of them to deal with. But they're home. They may not be able to get out. They rely on other people, and that creates a certain loneliness and a certain disengagement and a certain powerlessness of somebody who spent their life taking care of themselves. And is there a way that we can empower them with virtual reality? Could we put a headset on and you have hand tracking? So really, they have grown up with the mechanic of looking around, grabbing things. So if those base mechanics are there, the interface of VR could actually be an easier gateway for seniors. They could shop from home in the safety and comfort of their own home. They can have those goods and services delivered to their home. They don't have to rely as much on the caregiving or people coming and shopping for them. I think it could really empower them, but also, I mean, you got Instacart and you got others now that they can do. But what about the feeling that they could actually get out and go to a virtual store, do virtual shopping in real time with other people? They could have those same, run-in conversations. They could be seen get out of their house and virtually, and I don't know, feel better about themselves. And is that a market we're not thinking about? Is there a group of people like that where we say what kinds of services, goods, and engagement, what can the metaverse, the experience, do to help connect people and people we don't traditionally think of as the digital nature? So there's a lot of rethinking, reformulating this, um, the nature of retail, the nature of selling, the nature of products and engagement, and brands. We're going to talk more about this subject because it's really fascinating to me to see about, the metaverse engagement, the experience, the immersiveness. Um, how do products, services, brands work in this new world? When you have to kind of be something more, something greater than the box. You know, what do we talk about? That's beyond, that doesn't fit on the wrapper, so to speak. So there's definitely a lot of things that we're going to be talking about for sure. Um, that leads me into the last point. I'll leave you here. Hopefully, we'll get some people interested, and we'll start having these conversations on a regular basis. And I'll bring in guests, and you guys can ask questions. But it struck me there is so much going on so fast, and equal parts confusion and interest, that I think that there's that if you're one of those people that's in a company, you probably are in one that's not formalizing metaverse. You're probably in a group of people that are doing nights and weekends, uh, fascinated by the subject matter, thrust into it for other reasons. But other people are trying to get a handle on this stuff, and it's really, we're building the plane where we're flying it. There's a ton of things going on. There's buzzwords everywhere. We use the word metaverse, but no one's really putting you know, a litmus test. What is a metaverse? Does it have to be backed in by blockchain? Does it have to be decentralized? What is Meta? The Facebook, is that what's going to be the metaverse? Is some of the other lands that are available, are they metaverse? Is there going to be one, many? What is a blockchain and NFTs and gas fees and all this wonderful stuff that's going on? And it's almost overwhelming. And what I'm proposing is a consideration for internally, for my brethren in business, to create a Metaverse Academy. I think it's something that we probably need to do. We need to, maybe a week-long academy where you find, mid-level and up leadership who are interested in this subject matter or need to feel that confidence in the subject matter and bring them up to speed. Um, get headsets, get them sent to them, get them comfortable, bring them into different worlds, maybe a different one every day for a week, and um, connect on it, talk about some of these terms, get to a level of comfort so that when leaders are talking about these subjects, they have an appreciation and understanding for what they're asking, what they're being told from agencies, from people inside the company, um, from the public, from the buzz, from all the news articles. It can get overwhelming. And I think it's the best thing that we can do is educate ourselves and those around us so that we at least know that what's the source of truth for your business. It'll normalize the equipment. It'll make it easy, create a comfort level. It gets a lot of the stuff out of the way where you can say, this is what you get into the headset and you can say, well, this is one world. We're using this product or that product. I'm not going to name names right now. There's a bunch of them, but that are fascinating, and there is a great opportunity to kind of collaborate in those spaces. Um, Socialize in those spaces, learn in those spaces, learn by doing. It would seem ridiculous to me to try to teach the metaverse, immersive interfaces by PowerPoint. Um, what you could learn by putting a headset on in an hour, it would take me all day to probably talk to you and say something about it in PowerPoint. Even this seems insufficient. And hopefully we'll get to a point where I can do this show, or I can do these talks could be in a metaverse. You know, I don't think it's normalized yet. It's not to that point yet, or at least there's not a decent enough group that I'm aware of. I'd like to get to the point where we're doing some speaking engagements and we can talk to people in there. But I think it's more important to bring people along for the trip and get leaders on board right now. There's so much going on. There's so much activity, and there's a rush to get a flag planted. But the danger is that there's not enough knowledge about what's going on, albeit it's still changing. And if anybody comes to your office or comes to do a talk and says they're an expert, kick them out, because there's no experts here. There's people that know a little bit more than other people on particular areas, but there's no experts. This is all new territory. We're all learning together. Um, and this is going to blow open some doors and change the way we do things. And so don't be restricted. But this is a time to really contemplate what you want to do with your brands, with the services, with the things that you do in business, um, at every level. It can be internal collaboration, could be help engage with the hybrid working situation, create greater engagement and a novelty. And what's the excitement of a workshop? When we travel and go to a workshop, it's something new, it's different, we interact with other people. That's the same thing that we could do in a virtual world. There's a novelty to that. It's a new space. It changes, it depends on who's there. It's not the 2D, it's not this screen that we're kind of trapped in. And so there's some real applications. But a Metaverse Academy that could help create an outlet, experience what these things are, you know, talk about this, talk about the subject, talk about the potential, throw everything at on the table and discuss it. That's what we need more of. We need to understand we talk about what problems are we trying to solve, but we're early. You know, the we have to do some things, we have to try some things, we have to think about what our brands and things are going to mean. How do we engage people? What is the experience? What do we want to offer them? Um, and then when we try to give those life in a digital way, then we're going to identify the problems. Then we can see the gaps, and some of those will be things that are still being worked on. Others will be just gaps in knowledge and energy and effort. And the space is going to get really busy really fast. I have a feeling that if anyone's doing metaverse stuff, and they're staying in tune, there's going to be a heck of an uptick in talent, uh, talent developments and trying to get some big brains and get people who are smart and on top of this technology to help out. But this is really going to change the way we do things. This is really a flip. I've been really blessed to get in uh, back in 1995 with HTML, building websites, and going from web one to web two, um, running a online forum, thousands of people for 12 years, and then seeing that morph into going into Facebook, and now being here on the cusp of version 3, um, and even more interested in the connections, the immersiveness, um, removing borders, bringing like minds together. I think that it's an exciting time. If you're into the technology and you feel like all of the how fast you type or what you do or how, like what program languages you can manage, or um, if you struggle with that, I think this is going to be a really engaging time when you can grab things, and the mechanics are more human. We've had so many years of teaching computers how to talk to us, and now we get to have that interface that's what's more normal for us, and the computers understand it. And I think that's going to be where the creator economy is just going to take off. So lots to do in this space for sure. Well, that's the test. This is where we want to start. This is the conversation I want to have. Some will be rambling through some of these things. Some will be one subject for for however long we want to discuss things. It'll depend on what you guys want to hear and what's going on in the market. For now, I think I'm going to start throwing things out there and just having conversations with what's going on, and I'll invite some people in to have to give their take on it, and maybe we can get smart together. But if you like this, I hope you join. I hope you like and subscribe, and let's get some people together and let's have some conversations, and let's talk about the strategies and the mindset and the things that are going to change, not just the technology, but the things we have to do to make Web3, the metaverse, um, a reality or a virtual reality. So thanks a lot, and we'll see you in the next one.